Hello and welcome to the final episode of the Circular Economy Show for 2024. Now, to celebrate this event, I'm joined by my colleagues Lou and Finn to talk about some of the highlights from this year that we've had whilst working on the show. And maybe if you've got some differing opinions, you can leave them in the comments afterwards. But welcome, Lou, and welcome, Finn.
Thanks, Pip.
Yeah, thanks, Pippa.
How's this year been for you? Lou, tell us about your year.
It's been my first year of doing podcasts, and I have to say it's one of my favourite things. I'm not just saying that because it's Christmas time. I love it. We've had some great ones on. I've enjoyed listening to most of them, and I've really enjoyed hosting them as well.
And what about you, Finn? It's been your first year as well.
Yeah, echo what Lou said. I mean, first year of doing it. It was a bit of a slow start for me in terms of hosting, but certainly enjoyed listening to them early in the year. And then, coming off quite a hot streak towards the back end of the year.
Yeah.
Hosted a few and really enjoyed it.
You've even got one in the bank for 2025, so you're ahead of
what can
the
I
rest
say,
of us.
guys? Honestly.
Ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been great to have you guys on board. And we've also had Colin and Emma making some episodes this year as well. We've actually made 35 episodes this year.
Wow.
And can you guess how many territories that's been listened to in?
No.
I'm not even going to try.
I'm going to go for 132.
It's actually 189.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'm struggling to think of a territory that we haven't been listening to.
Really?
So
I wouldn't have known
if it was
that.
you listening in some of those very small ones, then thank you.
Thanks.
Lou, do you want to kick us off with your highlights from the podcast this year?
Well, earlier this year, I was lucky enough to interview Joss Blériot. He's from the foundation. He's our executive lead for institutions and policy, alongside Julia Okatz, and she's a director from Systemic. And the reason I was talking to those guys, just happened to have it here.
So for anyone who can't see, Lou's holding up
if
the...
anyone can't see, this is the full report, Building Prosperity, Unlocking the Potential of a Nature-Positive Circular Economy for Europe. And basically, what they're talking about is the importance of a circular economy transition for a thriving natural world, as well as a prosperous and resilient economy, and bringing that into our cities and built environments, which we can do. And when they're talking about it, you realise, why aren't we doing it? It just seems like a total no-brainer.
Should we have a little listen?
Yeah, do.
First, we restated the economic opportunity of circular frameworks and then added a layer of focus when it comes to nature-positive implications as well. Because as you rightly say, the most obvious strategies have focused first and foremost on materials management, and the foundation has illustrated the material savings and the economic opportunities of those strategies. What has been a bit less obvious were the benefits of relying on fewer virgin materials, thereby leaving space for nature to thrive and making sure that we didn't overexploit and allowed natural systems to regenerate. And that was the idea with this report, was to say, let's look at this from a principle point of view and adapt it in concrete strategies, investable strategies in the built environment.
When we talk about nature, people tend to think about forests and wildlands and wildflowers, and obviously those are tremendously important. But there's another dimension that is more intrinsically linked with the built environment and cities, and that is important for other reasons. So they're also important for biodiversity reasons, but also for the direct, we call it nature-based solutions or ecosystem services that nature delivers to people. So it's really about the benefits between nature and people and society that we're looking at here.
I think it's really great, Lou, that we've started talking about what the circular economy looks like in reality. And you can see this playing out in urban environments, because not all of us live in the countryside where we can have these regenerative fields and things that we talk about elsewhere.
Yeah, and they were very aware, and that's what they discussed also throughout the podcast. When you say the words nature positive to people, we all immediately think the Amazon, flourishing bushland, or wild regenerative nature. You don't automatically apply it to a built environment, but we can. And it is being done, and hopefully this will give it the push it needs to take it across Europe and further.
And I think they described it really well in that episode. So
yeah,
it'll be really helpful if nobody wants to read the full report, then it'll give them a good gist. So
absolutely. And it's a really positive read. you come out feeling good. You think, wow, we can do this. Or I did anyway. And especially having spoken to those guys, I thought, yeah, we're onto a winner here. We can do it.
And I know you've got some other things you enjoyed this year as well, like talking to Vincent.
Vincent Mahoro from Daniabora in Kenya. Vincent was part of he still is part of our big food redesign here at the foundation. And he is doing amazing things with cactus. He's making drinks, cattle feed, cookies. He's a young guy. He's straight out of uni. He's entrepreneurial. He's obviously extremely bright. And he has taken what was effectively the scourge of their lands. Cactus grows wild. It needs no encouragement. And he's creating profit from it. He's creating food, sustenance. He's creating jobs for his local people and the villagers surrounding him. And I am so hoping this takes off because I am convinced, I've spoken to Vincent quite a lot, he's going to be someone very well known one day, and so is his product, hopefully. So he was one of the most inspiring people I've ever spoken to.
And Finn, I'm going to let you plug your other work here because I know both of you have spoken to Vincent and some of the other participants from the Big Food Redesign Challenge in a vlog series. So do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So as Lou said, Vincent is one of 6 pioneering food companies that are looking to design products to help nature thrive. We've produced a 5-part series. We currently just released episode 4, so check that out if you have time. And we follow their journey from the embryonic stages of the product all the way through to hopefully showcasing those products next month at the event in Fortnum and Mason. So it's really exciting, and we've really enjoyed working with the participants.
And we get to meet them in real life, some of them.
That's really exciting because I think it's great when people come into the studio and we get to see them face to face, but often it is on Zoom. So those opportunities to meet up are really exciting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Finn, what about you? So aside from your video work, you've also, as you said, started making podcasts this year. So what are some highlights for you?
Yeah, hard to pick just a few highlights, to be honest. I say from a listening perspective, the Answering the Big Questions Roundtable podcast with Seb and Sarah was really informative, and I definitely recommend for the audience, those who are new to the circular economy, to definitely check that one out. And then more recently, I hosted a roundtable discussion based around biomaterials and how we can reach scale with those. I spoke to Amy Sang and Brett Cotton from Arda Biomaterials, and that was a really enjoyable conversation.
Yeah, it was last week's episode, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely check that out if you have time. But the clip I've chosen is from my first ever podcast. It was a conversation with Catherine Conway from Go Unpackaged, and we spoke about their return and refillable pilot, which had launched with Audi and Ocado. Run the clip.
We have to get the right balance. We have to make it attractive. We have to make it at the right price point. It can't be more expensive to do more work as you're a consumer. And I believe we have to explain it to people. We have to tell them what we're doing. So in our refill station in Aldi, we have this little animation that actually shows the whole story of the vessel to explain it to people. So I think there's lots and lots of carrots we can do with making reuse and refill attractive. I then also wonder at what point we need the stick, as it were, and we actually take some of the single use off sale. Because I think people will actually shift. We've seen with the pandemic, people shift their behavior very quickly when they need to. We've seen it with reusable cups at festivals and events. People are absolutely fine to use a reusable cup at a festival. But it would be really confusing if you gave them 2 options. So most places have actually just taken away the single use and everyone's got in a new habit. So there's lots of different elements that we need to focus on and lots of different levers that we can pull. But I still believe that, most people understand that there is a global crisis in terms of waste, resource, plastic. Most people feel terrible when their bins are overflowing with plastic at home and actually would like us to provide solutions for them. It's just we've got to explain it to them in the right way.
And Finn, you've got an exciting update from Catherine and her team, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And sort of as you heard in the clips, Catherine is a really strong and direct sort of leading voice in the refillable space. And actually 6 months down the line, I believe the Ocado trial's gone successful, and they're going to expand the product range now. So keep your eyes out for the products.
Oh, that's cool.
I have seen it on the website that you can just add it to your normal grocery shop. And I think that's an amazing way to scale things like reuse and refill, because if it has to be that effort of like taking your empty containers out, it's only going to reach a limited number of people. Whereas if it can come straight to your door, then can't get much more convenient than that, can you?
Absolutely, yeah. Pip, what about you?
Well, so I'm the project manager for podcasts, which means I get to delve into everybody's work. But something I really enjoyed this year was Colin's Origin series, going back to the schools of thought that informed the circular economy to begin with. And some of them I knew were going to be interesting before we started recording. So things like biomimicry, I think they're just exciting concepts anyway. I know you guys have worked with Janine Benyus on some content too. Yeah. But the one that took my surprise was industrial symbiosis, which if you're not biologists or really involved in that kind of academic side of circular economy, I think it can sound a bit heavy. And so I was quite surprised when, one, I listened to the interviews that Colin had done, and two, saw how well the content went down with our listeners. So industrial symbiosis, we spoke to Lisbeth Randers from Kalundborg, which is this industrial park in Denmark. And it started, I think, in the 70s, where there were a bunch of factories and energy plants next to each other that would use each other's waste materials in their business. So nothing was ever wasted. And the term industrial symbiosis comes from biology, because that happens in the natural world too.
Okay.
So here Lisbeth tells us a little bit more about it.
Well, symbiosis is taken from biology when you have two species benefiting from living closely together. For instance, birds and bees, you could say that's one of the best examples. They benefit from having this collaboration, and it's exactly the same sort of metaphor that we use when we're talking about industrial symbiosis, because when we have different partners, they can share their residue, so that you can actually turn a side stream or a residue in one company into a resource or into a commodity in another company. So being located in the same area, in a local cluster, you can have this dialogue. How can we use the resources better? How can we maybe also create mutual infrastructure so that resources are used in different qualities among different partners? So it's actually all about sort of reaching out to your neighbors, looking for new partners that you can cooperate with.
And I think what I really liked about that episode is there's a great story, if you listen further into the episode, where Lisbeth talks about how local school children were the ones that brought it to prominence. So these companies had started working with each other because it just made sense, but they hadn't put a name to it. They hadn't realised they were doing a thing. And then these kids did a school project, and it caught national and then international attention. And now Kalundborg is held up as the perfect example, well, maybe not perfect, but the going example for what industrial symbiosis means.
Give it to the youth.
Exactly.
Yeah, inspirational.
Let them run with it, I say.
And I mean, it's very trite, but children are the future, as Whitney
they
Houston once sang.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm very excited to have worked on it with you and with our colleagues this year.
Yeah, it's been a good year.
Yeah,
and next year's going to be better, I reckon.
I'm hoping the circular economy is going to be better, because I think we're really in the trenches of it now, and the hard work is happening.
I think we're done hypothesising now, aren't we? It's practical. It's in practice, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
And I think that's some things we'll focus on in the podcast, is trying to find those examples of where it's working, but also get people to talk about what they've tried and what they haven't, and what's holding them back from this becoming the norm.
Yeah, celebrate success as well as failures.
Yeah.
Show people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what about, so it's the end of the year. I know you guys have already got holidays booked. What are you looking forward to on your time off before we come straight back in with the exciting stuff next year? Ben?
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the winter season. I've got to say, cozy nights in the pub. I feel like, we've worked really hard on the podcast this year. So it'd be nice to just take some time to recharge the batteries, enjoy some social activity and then, come back fully firing.
Yeah, I like it. Lou?
Yeah, I'm the same. It's all about the socialising over Christmas
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
I'm hoping the rain is going to hold off and I can get out and explore some of the countryside and remember what life outside the studio looks like.
Yeah. Pretty grey at the moment.
Well, there's always hope in England.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for this year. So, I mean, the Christmas break is a great time to catch up on podcasts. So if you haven't listened to the episodes we mentioned today, they're all going to be in the show notes. And as I said, there are 35 episodes to choose from this year. So yeah.
Get stuck
Great.
in.
Yeah. And if you have enjoyed the podcast this year, then it would really help if you left a review. A 5-star rating would be particularly helpful, or share it with your friends and colleagues who might also enjoy the Circular Economy Show. But for now, thank you for joining us, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
See you next year.
See you later.
Bye.